between the two of them. And as we were driving, Yossi Beilin whispered into my ear. He said, well, I don't want to put you under too much pressure, but you should know that the entire fate of the Oslo negotiations now is on your shoulders. And with this statement ringing in my ear, we entered Rabin's office.
At the beginning, the drafts were very, very bad to Israel.
He was suspicious that the PLO was using the Oslo track in order to somehow trick Israel into concessions and then using what was said in Oslo against Israel in Washington.
I said, Yitzhak, forget Washington.
Maybe the PLO was trying to tell us that they were prepared to be more flexible than the official positions expressed in Washington.
I had my doubts, but I said, go ahead, try.
Rabin asked the lawyer to join the talks in Oslo, alongside a top government official appointed to show the PLO that Israel now meant business.
Joel arrives and starts to cross-examine Abu Ala.
I asked them, there are the settlements. I mean, in the agreement, you wrote that you will have jurisdiction all over the West Bank. This is what is written here. Now, what about the settlements? Do you intend to go into the settlements to send your tax collectors into the settlement and collect taxes? They said, no, we wouldn't do that. I said, do you intend to use Palestinian teachers to teach the Israeli kids in the settlement schools under Palestinian curricula? They said, no, 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 no. So I said, so you mean that the settlements will not be under your authority? They said, certainly not. I said, okay, not the settlements. Now, as to Jerusalem, will Israel continue to govern Jerusalem? They said, yes. I said, okay, it was not clear in the document.
Joel said, let's say we leave your towns. We will have to move our troops somewhere. He said, is it clear that only we can decide where they go, and only we can define the security zones?
All those questions were really about their security. Even when we discussed the transfer of powers, it was always against the background of security, how they would control security. Everything was about security.
And Abu Ala says, yes, as long as you don't make the whole West Bank a security zone.
And when they came out of that meeting, Abu Ala came up to me and said, they've turned the Declaration of Principles completely upside down. This is absolutely crazy. We cannot continue like this. But then also he smiled at the end of his outburst, and he said, but I learned a hell of a lot from those questions.
At the next session, the lawyer handed back to the Palestinians the Declaration of Principles, with all their verbal concessions spelled out in cold print.
I told Singer straight out, you seem to have come with a mission. You are here to destroy the peace process. You're full of hostility to Palestinians. You're living in the past. You have a fear complex. You're still living in the ghetto. You can't make the break and see the way forward.
His eyes were shining with anger.
And I said, listen, everything that I added, I took from your answers to my question. These are your words. Look at your notes.
Next, the Norwegian Foreign Minister Johan Holst, accompanied by Terje Larsen, flew to Tunis to visit Arafat. It was now Arafat's turn to raise the stakes.
He went into to a side room and got out a map of Gaza, West Bank, and Israel, and started pointing at different borderlines that we were discussing. And then at a certain point in time he said, "And I want kissing points." And I couldn't really, I thought, what does he mean? And I turned to Holst and I saw that he was completely puzzled. So Holst said, "Then you mean crossing points or checkpoints maybe?" No, said Arafat, "I mean kissing points, like..." And what he really meant was that there should be a kissing point between Gaza and the West Bank. There had to be an interconnection by way of communication.
To my surprise, Arafat now came up with a tougher stance. It did not reflect the current compromise. He asked for a road from Gaza to the West Bank. He revived old PLO demands, which reopened issues we had already agreed to in Oslo.
The Palestinian-controlled road between Gaza and the West Bank that Arafat was asking for would cut Israel in two. And now Arafat wanted not just Jericho, but the surrounding district as well. He also insisted that Jerusalem be put back on the agenda.
Arafat always thought that if he was getting something, he might as well ask for more.
I told Arafat at the end of the meeting, "All right, I shall do as you ask, but I know these people. They won't accept it. If we proceed with this line, the Israelis will end the talks." But Arafat insisted on his stand. He said, "These are my instructions. They can take it or leave it."
Back in Norway, the Palestinian-Israeli relationship was strained by the new demands. Abu Ala, the chief PLO negotiator, presented the new hard line. The Israelis were stunned.
I said, "Gentlemen, you are pulling it all apart. All that you promised, all we negotiated. You know the ground rules we agreed to. But if we take your proposals back to Jerusalem, we can kiss the peace talks goodbye." And I was about to put my things away. Suddenly, Abu Ala asked us to remain seated at the table. He wanted to make a personal announcement. I informed them that I would be resigning. I hoped my brothers in Tunis would continue with Oslo. If they did, I wish my replacement every success.
Goodbye, my friends. I will always remember you.
We all wondered whether this experienced negotiator was pulling some kind of trick, or whether he meant it.
Abu Ala walked out into the surrounding woods.
He'd hurt his foot, so I got a stick for him with a silver handle. So he was walking around with an air of superiority towards the Israelis, refusing to talk to them. And then he came over to me and said, "It's all over."
This was the moment of crisis, when you either pull the plug or do something drastic. We decided to try something drastic.
The Israelis had prepared an alternative idea for just such a moment.
I said, "Listen, the fact that we are talking with the PLO will eventually leak out. I think that we should have another agreement in which the PLO undertakes to do a number of things, and in return, Israel recognizes the PLO as the representative of the Palestinian people."
Singer's point was that if you negotiate with the PLO, you're virtually recognizing them.
Recognition was the key. It would put the PLO on the map.